A billionaire father begins to suspect something is terribly wrong inside his own mansion. His children have grown quiet, jumpy, afraid, and every time he asks why, his glamorous fiancée gives a perfect smile that never reaches her eyes. Desperate for answers and terrified he might be missing the signs, he does the unthinkable. He disguises himself as a low-paid handyman and slips into his own household, completely unnoticed, determined to uncover the truth that money has been blinding him from. What he finds behind those polished doors isn't what he expected, because while the fiancé plotted something darker than neglect, a humble maid stood between the children and danger, shielding them with nothing but courage, instinct, and a heart far stronger than anyone realized. And when the billionaire finally throws off the disguise in the middle of the living room, tools still hanging from his belt, the truth doesn't just come out, it erupts. It shatters reputations, and it changes the future of that household forever. But before the explosion begins, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Now, let's go back to the moment everything cracked. The wrench trembled in Michael Harrington's grip as he crouched behind the boiler room door, peering through the narrow gap toward the hallway. His fiancée, Serena Vale, perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect lies, towered over 8-year-old Aiden, her voice a low, venomous whisper. "You useless little brat. If you ever tell your father what I said, I swear you'll regret it." Aiden froze, clutching the lunchbox he'd dropped, metal clattering on the tiles. Serena's eyes flashed. "Pick it up, and don't cry. Your father hates weak children." But Aiden wasn't the only one watching. Behind a half-open pantry door, Maria, the maid, stood still as stone, fists tight, breath trembling. She had seen enough to know what Serena was capable of, and she also knew if she stepped in again, she could lose the job that kept her family alive. Her eyes darted toward the boiler room. She didn't know the handyman crouched there was actually the children's father. And Michael didn't know yet that Maria had been protecting his kids long before he ever suspected the truth. Michael hadn't planned to witness anything this soon. His disguise, rough jeans, cheap boots, and a stained maintenance shirt had barely fooled the staff during his first hour in the mansion. But he wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here to watch, to listen, to understand why his children, Aiden and little Lily, had lost their sparkle over the last few months, why they flinched at sudden sounds, why they grew silent around Serena, the woman he once believed would make the perfect stepmother. He used to think the kids were adjusting. He used to think Serena was overwhelmed, new to parenting. He used to think he was imagining the hesitation in their voices when they said, "We're okay, Dad." But lately, he hadn't been sleeping. Something was wrong, deathly wrong. And when he'd seen Lily quietly crying while cleaning up her own spilled cereal, apologizing over and over while Serena stood with arms crossed, something inside him snapped. That was the moment the billionaire became the handyman. Maria saw Serena's shadow before she saw Serena herself. The housemaids always did. Serena walked like she owned the world, heels sharp against marble, perfume sweeping into a room before her voice did. She didn't yell often, but her whisper could slice glass. Maria held her breath as Serena leaned in close to Aiden, gripping his chin between manicured fingers. "You useless little brat. If you ever tell your father what I said, I swear you'll regret it." Aiden froze, clutching the lunchbox he dropped, metal clattering on the tiles. Serena's eyes flashed. "Pick it up and don't cry. Your father hates weak children." But Aiden wasn't the only one watching. Behind a half-open pantry door, Maria, the maid, stood still as stone, fists tight, breath trembling. She had seen enough to know what Serena was capable of. And she also knew, if she stepped in again, she could lose the job that kept her family alive. Her eyes darted toward the boiler room. She didn't know the handyman crouched there was actually the children's father. And Michael didn't know yet that Maria had been protecting his kids long before he ever suspected the truth. Michael hadn't planned to witness anything this soon. His disguise, rough jeans, cheap boots, and a stained maintenance shirt had barely fooled the staff during his first hour in the mansion. But he wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here to watch, to listen, to understand why his children, Aiden and little Lily, had lost their sparkle over the last few months, why they flinched at sudden sounds, why they grew silent around Serena, the woman he once believed would make the perfect stepmother. He used to think the kids were adjusting. He used to think Serena was overwhelmed, new to parenting. He used to think he was imagining the hesitation in their voices when they said, "We're okay, Dad." But lately, he hadn't been sleeping. Something was wrong, deathly wrong. And when he'd seen Lily quietly crying while cleaning up her own spilled cereal, apologizing over and over while Serena stood with arms crossed, something inside him snapped. That was the moment the billionaire became the handyman. Maria saw Serena's shadow before she saw Serena herself. The housemaids always did. Serena walked like she owned the world, heels sharp against marble, perfume sweeping into a room before her voice did. She didn't yell often, but her whisper could slice glass. Maria held her breath as Serena leaned in close to Aiden, gripping his chin between manicured fingers. "You useless little brat. If you ever tell your father what I said, I swear you'll regret it." Aiden froze, clutching the lunchbox he'd dropped, metal clattering on the tiles. Serena's eyes flashed. "Pick it up and don't cry. Your father hates weak children." But Aiden wasn't the only one watching. Behind a half-open pantry door, Maria, the maid, stood still as stone, fists tight, breath trembling. She had seen enough to know what Serena was capable of, and she also knew, if she stepped in again, she could lose the job that kept her family alive. Her eyes darted toward the boiler room. She didn't know the handyman crouched there was actually the children's father. And Michael didn't know yet that Maria had been protecting his kids long before he ever suspected the truth. Michael hadn't planned to witness anything this soon. His disguise, rough jeans, cheap boots, and a stained maintenance shirt had barely fooled the staff during his first hour in the mansion. But he wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here to watch, to listen, to understand why his children, Aiden and little Lily, had lost their sparkle over the last few months, why they flinched at sudden sounds, why they grew silent around Serena, the woman he once believed would make the perfect stepmother. He used to think the kids were adjusting. He used to think Serena was overwhelmed, new to parenting. He used to think he was imagining the hesitation in their voices when they said, "We're okay, Dad." But lately, he hadn't been sleeping. Something was wrong, deathly wrong. And when he'd seen Lily quietly crying while cleaning up her own spilled cereal, apologizing over and over while Serena stood with arms crossed, something inside him snapped. That was the moment the billionaire became the handyman. Maria saw Serena's shadow before she saw Serena herself. The housemates always did. Serena walked like she owned the world, heels sharp against marble, perfume sweeping into a room before her voice did. She didn't yell often, but her whisper could slice glass. Maria held her breath as Serena leaned in close to Aiden, gripping his chin between manicured fingers. "You useless little brat. If you ever tell your father what I said, I swear you'll regret it." Aiden froze, clutching the lunchbox he'd dropped, metal clattering on the tiles. Serena's eyes flashed. "Pick it up and don't cry. Your father hates weak children."
But Aiden wasn't the only one watching. Behind a half-open pantry door, Maria, the maid, stood still as stone, fists tight, breath trembling. She had seen enough to know what Serena was capable of. And she also knew, if she stepped in again, she could lose the job that kept her family alive. Her eyes darted toward the boiler room. She didn't know the handyman crouched there was actually the children's father. And Michael didn't know yet that Maria had been protecting his kids long before he ever suspected the truth. Michael hadn't planned to witness anything this soon. His disguise, rough jeans, cheap boots, and a stained maintenance shirt had barely fooled the staff during his first hour in the mansion. But he wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here
to watch, to listen, to understand why his children, Aiden and little Lily, had lost their sparkle over the last few months, why they flinched at sudden sounds, why they grew silent around Serena, the woman he once believed would make the perfect stepmother. He used to think the kids were adjusting. He used to think Serena was overwhelmed, new to parenting. He used to think he was imagining the hesitation in their voices when they said, "We're okay, Dad." But lately, he hadn't been sleeping. Something was wrong, deathly wrong. And when he'd seen Lily quietly crying while cleaning up her own spilled cereal, apologizing over and over while Serena stood with arms crossed, something inside him snapped. That was the moment the billionaire became the handyman. Maria saw Serena's shadow before she saw Serena herself. The housemaids always did. Serena walked like she owned the world, heels sharp against marble, perfume sweeping into a room before her voice did. She didn't yell often, but her whisper could slice glass. Maria held her breath as Serena leaned in close to Aiden, gripping his chin between manicured fingers. "You embarrass me. Do you know that?" she hissed. Aiden didn't nod. He didn't shake his head either. He just froze, small, helpless, shrinking into himself. It wasn't the first time Maria had seen this, but it was the first time she saw someone else witnessing it. The handyman, the quiet man with tired eyes and a tool belt that didn't match the way he carried himself. Something about him felt off, not dangerous, just out of place in a mansion where even the doorknobs cost more than her monthly rent. He wasn't supposed to be in the boiler room. He wasn't supposed to hear this. Yet he stood there, trembling, not with fear, but with a cold, rising anger Maria could feel from across the hallway. She stepped forward. Someone had to. "Miss Serena?" Maria said softly. "Aiden is supposed to be in tutoring right now. I can walk him." She snapped her head toward her. "You can walk him? Oh, how generous of you. Since when are you in charge of the schedule?" Maria swallowed. I just meant enough." Serena pushed Aiden's lunchbox into Maria's hands, hard enough for her to stumble. "Take him, and make sure he doesn't ruin anything else today." Aiden didn't lift his head as he walked toward Maria. He didn't look back at Serena. He didn't look anywhere. But he paused for a split second when he passed the boiler room. The handyman was still there, watching, jaw clenched, eyes burning. Aiden didn't recognize him. Michael's disguise was good enough for that. But the boy felt something, a kind of safety he hadn't felt in months. He looked up, just briefly, and Michael's heart cracked. He waited until the hallway was empty, Maria leading Aiden by the hand, Serena's heels clicking away like a countdown. Then he sank onto a crate in the boiler room, chest heaving. For the first time in years, the billionaire felt powerless. He had money, influence, staff, security, but he couldn't protect his children in their own home. Not when the enemy lived under his roof. He gripped the wrench tighter, knuckles whitening. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't children adjusting. This wasn't anxiety or shyness or a phase. This was abuse. And Serena wasn't hiding it from the staff because she didn't care what the staff thought. She only cared what he thought. She was playing a long game, a dangerous one where the children were pawns. He stood. He couldn't reveal himself yet, not without evidence, not without understanding the full scope of what was happening. If he confronted her too early, she'd manipulate the staff, twist the story, make the children deny everything. No, he had to stay hidden. For now. But as he stepped out of the boiler room and followed the faint sound of Aiden's sniffles down the hall, he made a promise. Silent, lethal.
Maria Alvarez walked Aiden down the hallway with the steady hand on his shoulder, but inside, she was shaking. She could still feel Serena's venom in the air, sharp, sour, suffocating. The boy's small fingers gripped hers so tightly it hurt, but Maria didn't flinch. Not once. Because if she let go, even for a second, she feared he might collapse. Aiden's breaths came quick and shallow. His eyes stayed glued to the floor. He moved like someone trying to disappear into his own body. "Do you want to sit for a minute?" Maria whispered, guiding him into the small laundry room at the end of the hall. He nodded without looking up. She closed the door softly behind them. It was the only room in the mansion Serena never walked into. She hated the smell of detergent. She hated the warmth of the dryer. She said it made her sweat. Maria used that to her advantage. The laundry room was their shelter, their safe zone, their secret. She pulled a little stool over and sat in front of Aiden, taking his tiny hands in hers. "What happened today, cariño?" Aiden hesitated, his lips parted, but no words came. He looked like a child trying to swallow a storm. Maria softened her voice. "You're not in trouble, I promise. I just want to understand." Finally, Aiden whispered, "She said Dad wouldn't want me if he knew the truth." Maria's stomach nodded. "What truth?" Aiden wiped his nose with his sleeve. "That I'm weak." Her heart shattered. "No, mi amor," she breathed, brushing his cheek with gentle fingers. "You are not weak." He didn't believe her. She could see it. Children always believe the first voice that tells them who they are, and Serena had made sure her voice was the loudest. Maria knew more than she ever let on. She'd been working for the Harrington family for 2 years, long before Serena Vale arrived with her glossy hair, perfect wardrobe, and the coldest smile Maria had ever seen. At first, Maria thought Serena simply didn't like children. Then she realized Serena didn't like anyone she couldn't control. The first time Maria witnessed Serena snap at Aiden, she wrote it off as stress. The second time, she watched Serena yank Lily's arm for spilling milk. The third time, Serena slapped a cup out of Aiden's hand and said, "Maybe your father should send you to a boarding school for slow kids." Maria intervened and had gotten written up for overstepping her role. But Maria didn't stop. Whenever Serena wasn't looking, she made the children eat. She checked their homework. She taught Lily how to braid her hair. She hugged Aiden when he flinched. She told them bedtime stories Serena refused to read. She became their shield, quietly, invisibly, constantly. But it came with a cost. Serena knew Maria didn't like her. Serena knew Maria saw too much. Serena knew Maria was loyal to the wrong people. And that made Maria a threat. A threat Serena intended to get rid of. Maria didn't know the handyman was watching her too. After leaving the boiler room, Michael had followed the faint sound of Aiden's sniffles until he reached the laundry room door. He couldn't see inside, but he could hear Maria's voice. Soft, comforting, protective, different from Serena in every way. He heard her telling Aiden he wasn't weak. He heard her telling him everything would be okay. He heard her caring in ways Serena never had. Michael leaned against the wall, breath unsteady.
He had expected to find a villain in his home, but he hadn't expected to find a quiet hero too. When the door cracked open slightly, just an inch, Maria spotted him. She froze, eyes wide. They stared at each other. He was supposed to be just a handyman, invisible, forgettable, part of the background, but something about the way he looked at her, intense, grateful, almost desperate, made her realize he wasn't just repairing pipes or checking wiring. He was looking for something. Someone. Some truth. Maria opened her mouth to speak, then stopped. She closed the door again gently. Aiden didn't need another audience. Inside, she knelt in front of the boy. "Aiden, listen to me." Her voice was firm now, stronger, a soldier's voice. "You tell me if she ever touches you, if she ever says something to hurt you, if she ever scares you." Aiden's eyes filled with tears, but she said, "If I tell anyone—" Maria put a finger over his lips. "You told me, and that means you're brave." His shoulders shook as he finally cried. Maria pulled him into her arms, rocking him gently, whispering soft Spanish words of comfort she'd once used for her own younger siblings. Outside the door, Michael pressed a hand over his face. This was worse than he thought. Far worse. When Aiden's breathing finally steadied, Maria knew she had to get him to tutoring before Serena noticed he'd been missing. She opened the door and nearly bumped into the handyman. Except this time, she didn't look surprised. She looked cautious. "Is everything okay?" he asked, keeping his voice low. Maria studied him for a long moment. Most handymen didn't have eyes that sharp. Most handymen didn't stand with shoulders like that. Most handymen didn't look like billionaires dressed as workers. She didn't know who he was, but she knew he wasn't what he claimed. "Everything's fine," she said softly. "The children just need patience." Her words were careful, measured, heavy. Michael nodded. I'll keep an eye out," he murmured. Maria's expression softened for the first time. "Then you're already doing more than she ever has." But before he could reply, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Fast. Hard. Familiar. Serena. Maria's pulse jumped. She pulled Aiden behind her, forcing a smile as Serena swept around the corner. "There you are," she said, her voice sugary poison. "And why is the handyman lingering here?" Michael lowered his gaze humbly, playing his role perfectly. "Ma'am, just fixing a leak." Serena didn't glance at him twice. That was her mistake. Instead, she narrowed her eyes at Maria. "You know," she said slowly, "I've been thinking about making some staffing changes." A chill ran up Maria's spine. She knew what that meant. She was getting too close, too loyal, too dangerous. Aiden squeezed Maria's hand, terrified, and Serena saw it. Her smile sharpened. "Yes," she said. "Changes are coming very soon." Michael clenched his jaw, every instinct screaming to protect the woman who had been protecting his children. But he couldn't reveal himself. Not yet. He needed to know more. And whatever Serena was planning,
It wasn't over. It was only beginning. Michael Harrington had survived boardroom wars, hostile takeovers, billion-dollar negotiations, but nothing prepared him for the storm brewing in his own living room, because now he knew. He knew what Serena had been doing when his back was turned. He knew why his children had gone quiet, jumpy, small. He knew who had been protecting them when he wasn't there. And worse, he knew what was coming next. Serena wasn't stupid. She wasn't careless. She was cornered. And a cornered predator is always the most dangerous. Michael stood in the hallway in his handyman disguise, the cheap navy shirt clinging to his back with sweat. He had just overheard the conversation between Maria and the kids, the one where Maria begged them to be brave, to tell the truth one day, to trust that someone would believe them. Someone. Him. The man who hadn't been looking hard enough. His lungs felt too tight, like he was breathing through a straw. The world around him blurred and then sharpened painfully. He'd seen enough. He'd heard enough. He was done pretending. But he couldn't explode yet. Not until he had proof. Not until he made Serena reveal her real self in front of the one person who mattered most, the children. Because when the facade falls apart, the first instinct of a manipulator is to rewrite the story, gaslight, deny, blame. Not this time. Not with him standing right there. Not with Maria, God bless that woman, with her trembling courage and scarred palms, who had risked everything for kids who didn't belong to her. He owed her the truth too. He owed her everything. Serena's heels clicked sharply on the marble floor, too loud, too fast, a warning sign. She was hunting for someone. Michael ducked behind the storage closet just in time as she swept into the hallway like a storm in designer silk. Her eyes were laser-focused, scanning, calculating. Then, "Aiden," she snapped, "come here!" Aiden stiffened, his tiny hands curled around the edge of the wall as if he could hold himself in place. Serena's smile tightened into a shape that had no warmth. "What did you tell the maid?" Aiden swallowed hard. "Nothing. We were just—" "Lie again," she whispered, leaning down, "and I'll—" "That's enough." The voice was soft, but steady. Maria had stepped between them. A move Serena wasn't expecting. Her head jerked around, her nostrils flared. "You," she hissed, "you don't speak to me unless spoken to." Maria's chin lifted. "And you don't threaten children." The air froze. Aiden's breathing stopped. Serena straightened slowly, like a cobra rising to strike. "You're fired." Maria didn't flinch. "You'll pack your things and be out of here in an hour. If you're not, I'll—" "You'll what?" Maria didn't move, but her voice lowered. "You'll hit me like you hit them?" Serena's smile shattered. And that was the moment Michael stepped out. He didn't announce himself. He didn't clear his throat. He just walked forward, handyman uniform still on, tool belt still hanging loosely at his side, and positioned himself directly behind Maria. Serena didn't see him at first. She was too busy sharpening her tongue. "Oh, sweetie," Serena cooed venomously, "you think anyone will believe the words of a housemaid over me? I could destroy your life with a single phone c— Try it." Serena froze. Her blood turned to ice. Slowly, mechanically, she turned her head toward the voice she thought belonged to the handyman, only to find her fiancé, the billionaire she had been preparing to marry, standing there disguised like a day laborer, watching her with eyes so cold she felt them like a knife against her skin. "Michael?" Serena whispered, throat tightening. He didn't blink. Not once. His voice was low, deadly calm. The kind of calm that meant the explosion had already happened inside him. "I heard everything." Serena's breath stuttered. "No, you don't understand." "I heard everything." The words echoed through the hall. Aiden, half hidden behind the corner, gasped when he realized what was happening. Serena's shoulders twitched, rage flickering behind her perfect facade. "Michael, this is ridiculous," she said quickly. "The children lie, the staff lies, people like them always—" "Finish that sentence." She swallowed it. Hard. For the first time since she walked into his life, Serena realized her power was gone. Not slipping, not crumbling. Gone. Maria shifted slightly, unsure, trembling between fear and relief. She glanced at Michael, her eyes wide, pleading silently. "Please believe me." He did. He nodded once at her,
Just a small, grateful, apologetic nod, but Maria's breath cracked with emotion. She hadn't been seen in years. Not really. Not by anyone. But now the man whose home she scrubbed, whose children she protected with her own heartbeat, was seeing her clear as day. Serena, meanwhile, was unraveling. "You're letting her manipulate you?" she scoffed, pointing at Maria with manic disbelief. "A maid? A nobody? She's obviously after money. Your money, don't you see that?" Michael's jaw clenched so hard a muscle pulsed near his temple. "She's the only person in this house who hasn't asked me for anything." Serena sputtered. "So you're taking their side? The children's? The staff's?" "Yes," Michael said. One word, a verdict. Serena blinked fast, starting to panic. "Listen to me," she insisted, stepping toward him. "If you think I'm going to let a jealous housemaid destroy our future—" Maria flinched. Michael didn't. "Our future died the moment you laid a hand on my children." She tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked like thin glass. "You can't throw me out. Do you know how ridiculous this looks? You in that filthy disguise? You want ridiculous? Then let's make it official." He raised his voice, not in anger, but with authority that shook the walls. "Kids, come here." Serena spun, horrified. "No, don't!" But they came. Aiden first, then little Lily clutching Maria's skirt with both hands. And when they saw their father standing there as the handyman they'd been whispering their fears to, Lily burst into tears. Aiden's voice cracked as he whispered, "You heard her, didn't you?" Michael dropped to his knees and pulled them into his arms. "I heard everything, buddy. I should have noticed sooner. I'm so sorry." Aiden sobbed into his chest. Serena's face drained of color. She realized she had lost the audience that mattered most, and without an audience, manipulators crumble. Serena's voice pitched into a high, desperate wail. "You ungrateful little brats! After everything I've done for—" Michael shot up so fast she stumbled back. "That's the last time you speak to them," he said, voice sharp as a blade. "You think you can just throw me out? I'm not asking you to leave. I'm telling you." She lunged for him, but Maria stepped forward instinctively, arm out, protecting the children. Serena paused, stared, and laughed, a sharp, ugly, disbelieving laugh. "Oh, this is rich," she sneered. "The maid, the hero." Maria didn't move. She didn't speak. But her presence said everything. Serena's eyes darted wildly for an exit, physical or psychological, but found none. Because for the first time ever, everyone saw her, and no one believed her. Michael stood tall, his children clinging to his sides, Maria behind them, silent, protective, unshaken. The facade was dead, the truth was alive, and the confrontation wasn't over yet, not by a long shot.
Because Serena wasn't leaving quietly. She never did.
For a long moment, the mansion held its breath. Serena stood frozen in the doorway, makeup flawless, smile fractured, eyes dilated with a venomous cocktail of rage and desperation. Michael stood opposite her, no longer disguised as a handyman, but not yet fully the billionaire titan either. He was something rawer, more dangerous, a father awakened. Behind him, Aiden and Lily clung to his sleeves. Maria hovered protectively, her face pale but her posture firm. It looked like a standoff, but it wasn't. Because Michael wasn't here to fight. He was here, finally, to see. The tape. "Serena," he said carefully, "we're going to talk." She laughed bitterly. "Talk? After you humiliated me? After you barged in here dressed like some janitor spying on me?" Her voice cracked. "This is insane, Michael. I've been nothing but good to those kids."
Maria made a soft, involuntary sound, a sound that said, "No, you have not." Serena heard it and snapped her head around, baring her teeth. "You! Stay out of this." But Maria didn't move. She didn't shrink. For the first time, she looked equal to Serena. Not in money, not in position, not in power. Equal in truth. And Serena hated it. "You think you can replace me?" Serena hissed at her. "You think you can just slide into my place? Your place?" Michael interrupted. "Serena, this isn't about jealousy. This is about what you've been doing behind my back." Serena straightened, mask flickering back into place. "I haven't done anything," she said coolly. "If the children or the staff are spreading lies, it's because they resent me." Michael held her gaze a long moment. Then he reached into his tool belt. Serena's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" He pulled out a small black device, a pocket recorder. "Do you remember," he said quietly, "what you told Aiden in the hallway this morning?" Serena swallowed hard. What are you talking about?" "Don't cry," Michael mimicked softly. "Your father hates weak children." Aiden's tiny fingers tightened around his shirt. Serena's expression trembled. No, that's not—" "But that wasn't the worst part," Michael said, pressing a button with a click. And the hallway filled with her voice. "You useless little brat. If you ever tell your father what I said, I swear you'll regret it." The words slithered through the air like poison. Aiden whimpered. Lily hid behind Maria's skirt. Maria's eyes filled, not with surprise, but with vindication. Painful, exhausted vindication. Serena's face drained of blood. That's edited. That's—" "Serena," Michael said, "stop." She didn't. She couldn't. "No, this is some trick. He's lying. She's lying. Everyone is lying. This is a setup." Michael stepped forward. "Look at them." Serena's chest rose and fell rapidly. "Look at what your words did to them." Her eyes flicked toward the children. Aiden's trembling lip, Lily's watery gaze, Maria's hand resting protectively across both their backs. And something in Serena's composure, a thread, finally snapped. The motive. Serena's breathing quickened. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I had to be strict. I had to teach them." "Teach them what?" Michael asked softly. Serena's eyes flicked, sharp and panicked, toward Maria. "That woman poisoned them against me. She undermined everything." Maria stiffened. "You always watched," she shrieked. "Always judging me, always listening like some rat." Michael's voice sharpened. "So you threatened children?" Serena blinked rapidly. "I didn't threaten them. I only warned them. For their own good." Aiden whimpered again. Serena shook her head, desperate. "You don't understand. I wasn't what you think I was." Michael crossed his arms. "Then what were you?" Serena hesitated, and in that hesitation Michael saw it, fear. Not fear of being caught, fear of losing something she had counted on more than she wanted to admit. "You think," Michael said quietly, "that all I see in you is the villain." Serena swallowed. "But you and I both know," he continued, "that you weren't hurting my children because you hated them." Her eyes flickered up, startled. "You hurt them," he said, "because you were trying to mold them." Serena blinked confused. "Into what?" Maria whispered. Michael answered, "Into me." The room stilled. Serena froze as if she'd been stabbed. "You thought," he continued gently, almost sadly, "that if the kids behaved the way I do when I'm under stress, I would admire you, approve of you, maybe even need you." Serena's lips parted, trembling. I only wanted to fit into this family," she whispered. "I wanted you to see that I could handle your world, your lifestyle, your children, everything." "But you weren't supposed to handle them," Michael said, voice thick with regret. "You were supposed to care about them."
Serena's voice went small, broken. "I didn't know how." Maria's breath shook. The children sniffled softly. Michael felt something inside him twist, a strange combination of sorrow and fury. Because the truth was more complicated now. Serena wasn't a monster born. She was a monster made. By her upbringing, by her insecurities, by the world she had fought her way into. But that didn't excuse a damn thing. Maria's truth. Maria stepped forward, quiet, gentle, steady. "You don't have to hurt people to be loved," she said softly. Serena flinched as if struck. "You don't have to use fear to earn respect, especially not from children." Serena looked at her with raw, aching disdain, the kind that comes from seeing someone who embodies everything you wish you could be. Kind, courageous, loved. "You think you're better than me?" Serena whispered. Maria shook her head. "No." Serena scoffed. "But I think," she said carefully, "that somewhere inside, you're very, very lost." Serena's eyes flashed with something dangerously close to grief, and then she recoiled as if repulsed by her own emotion. No, don't pity me. I don't need pity. I don't need anyone." Michael finally stepped between them. "Enough," he said. Not cold, not angry, just tired. "Serena, you need to go." Serena's eyes widened. "You're choosing them over me?" Michael looked at his children, then at Maria, then at Serena. "Yes." Serena shook her head, fists trembling. "Michael, if you kick me out, you're going to regret this. You're going to lose everything we built, everything we planned." Michael exhaled slowly.
"What we built," he said, "was based on a lie." Serena's breath hitched. "And what I have now," he continued softly, "is the truth." Behind him, Aiden and Lily pressed into Maria's sides. A makeshift family, built not by blood, but by protection, by courage, by kindness. Serena stared, truly stared, for the first time, at what she had lost, at who she had become. And with a soft, fractured whisper, she asked, "Is there really no way back?" Michael shook his head. "No, not after this." Serena's shoulders sagged and the venom drained from her expression, replaced by something hollow. Defeat. Exile. End. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the front door. The reveal was complete, but the fallout was about to be nuclear. The door clicked shut behind Serena. No slam, no dramatic stomp of heels, just a soft, hollow sound that felt strangely final. Michael stood in the silence she left behind, shoulders tight, throat thick. He wasn't relieved, he wasn't triumphant, he wasn't even angry anymore. He was shaken, because you don't rip a poisonous root out of your home without tearing up a few good things around it. Behind him, Aiden tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, is she gone?" Michael crouched, pulling the boy close. "Yes," he whispered, "and she won't hurt you again." Aiden let out a tiny, shuddering breath, half sob, half relief. Lily followed, her small frame trembling as she wrapped her arms around her brother. The two clung to each other like shipwreck survivors. Maria stood nearby, hands pressed to her apron, eyes shining with quiet grief. Protecting the children had kept her strong for months, but once the danger retreated, she felt the exhaustion settle into her bones. Michael noticed it. He noticed everything now. But before he could speak to her, before he could thank her, the mansion suddenly erupted into motion. Whispers slithered down the hallway, footsteps shuffled, doors cracked open, faces peeked around corners. Everyone had heard Serena's voice on the recorder. Everyone had seen her bolt out of the mansion. The staff wasn't surprised, but they were shaken. And more than a few looked at the children with a new kind of softness, guilt, regret, sympathy. Michael straightened, jaw tight. "I owe you all the truth," he began. "Today, something happened in this house that I didn't see coming. Something I should have protected my children from a long time ago." The staff listened intently. "I thought Serena Vale was the right person for this family," he continued, "but instead of caring for my children, she harmed them." A ripple went through the room. Some gasped softly, others looked down, ashamed they had suspected but never spoken. "She threatened them," Michael said, voice tightening. "She belittled them. She made them afraid to speak to me." Lily clung tighter to Maria's hand. Aiden pressed against Michael's leg. Maria wiped her eyes discreetly. "And I didn't know," Michael said, "because I was blinded by trust where it wasn't deserved, and blind to loyalty where it was." Many eyes drifted toward Maria. Michael paused. "Maria," he said softly, turning to her, "please step forward." Maria froze. "Sir, please." Slowly, she stepped next to him. Michael faced the staff again. "This woman protected my children from harm for months," he said. "She comforted them when they were scared, stood up for them when no one else did, and put her job, her livelihood, on the line every single day to keep them safe." Maria shook her head, overwhelmed. "I just did what any person with a heart would do." "No," Michael said, voice firm. "Not everyone would. But you did." A murmur of agreement spread through the staff. Michael continued, "In this house, we value loyalty, integrity, humanity. And starting today, Maria is no longer working under anyone." Maria's breath caught. "I am promoting her to Chief Household Manager, and her salary will reflect the responsibility she's already been carrying." The staff gasped. Maria covered her mouth. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll stay," Michael whispered. She nodded hard, voice cracking. "Of course, I'll stay." Aiden ran forward and hugged her around the waist. Lily soon joined him, and the staff, who had always seen her as small, invisible, quiet, now saw her something else entirely. The person who saved the children when their father didn't know they needed saving. The staff dispersed slowly, speaking in hushed voices about what had happened. Maria stayed behind with the children, wiping their faces, smoothing their hair, whispering comforting words that made Michael's chest ache with gratitude and shame. He walked to the window and stared at the long driveway where Serena had disappeared. He expected to feel peace, but instead he felt dread, because ending a relationship with a woman like Serena Vale was never simple. Instead of moving toward the kitchen, Maria stepped up beside him. "You don't have to go through this alone," she said gently. He didn't look at her. "I might have just set off a war," he murmured. Maria hesitated. "You mean she'll come back?" Michael nodded slightly. "Serena doesn't accept loss. She never has. She burns the earth behind her when she leaves." Maria inhaled slowly. "Then we'll be ready," she said. He turned to her. "We?" Her eyes softened. "You think I'm leaving those children now? No chance." His throat tightened. He hired her because she seemed reliable. He trusted her because she seemed kind, but he never realized she was brave.
Braver than him, maybe. He opened his mouth to speak, but the moment shattered because the front gates suddenly buzzed. Loud, sharp, violent. Michael's screen lit up. Serena's face filled the monitor. Eyes red, hair wild, mascara streaked. She was screaming before the camera even focused. "Michael, you can't do this to me. You can't just throw me out and pretend I didn't matter."
Aiden whimpered behind him. Maria pulled the children close. Michael exhaled slowly. The fallout had officially begun.
The intercom continued to buzz, shrill, frantic, relentless. Serena's face filled the screen, her expression twisting between fury and desperation as she pounded on the iron gate with both fists. "Michael, open this gate right now! You can't do this to me!" Aiden flinched at every shout. Lily hid behind Maria's skirt. Michael turned off the audio feed, but the video kept playing. Serena's rage was silent now, but somehow even louder. Her mouth moved in wild shapes. She pointed at the mansion like she owned it, like she still lived here, like nothing had changed. Michael sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Is she okay?" Aiden asked quietly. Maria knelt, wrapping her arms around them both. "Sweetheart, she's gone. She can't hurt you anymore." But even Maria didn't sound convinced, because Serena Vale didn't vanish quietly. She detonated. And everyone in the house felt it. 2 guards approached Michael cautiously. "Sir," they said, "do you want us to escort her off the property?" He hesitated. Part of him wanted to avoid a scene, but another part, stronger, clearer, knew something important. If he allowed Serena even 1 inch of access, she would twist it into a mile. "No," Michael said, "do not let her in, and no staff member is to speak to her." The guards nodded. And record everything," he added, "in case we need it." They nodded again and left. Out at the gate, Serena's phone flashed in her hand. She was recording herself now, flipping instantly into another version of the truth. A perfect victim, a trembling voice, wide eyes shining with fake tears. "Oh, this is going to be bad," Maria whispered. "Bad," Michael murmured. "It's going to be nuclear." By morning, Serena's video had been posted everywhere. Everywhere. "Abandoned by my billionaire fiancé, the truth behind the lies. He stole my ring, my home, and my future. I thought he loved my children too." Children she didn't even have. Her performance was flawless. Her voice cracked at all the right moments. Her lip trembled on cue. She held her hands to her chest like a woman broken by grief. She told the world Michael had hit her, that he threatened her life, that the staff had been ordered to hide the bruises. She spun a web so wide it caught every person who glanced at it. By noon, hashtags began trending. Hashtag Justice for Serena. Hashtag Billionaire Monster. Hashtag Protect Women from Powerful Men. Michael's silence wasn't noble now. It was suspicious, and Serena knew it. By late afternoon, the Harrington Group's board members were on a call with him. "Michael, what is this? Why didn't you tell us? She claims domestic violence. We have stockholders asking questions." Michael tried to steady his voice. "She's lying." "We're not saying she's telling the truth," a director replied, "but the public believes she is. The board needs you to make a statement." "I have children to protect," he said. "I'm not dragging them into a public spectacle." "That's admirable," they responded, "but the market will not reward your silence." The call ended with no solutions, just pressure, weight, fear. Maria watched him carefully afterwards. "You look like a man standing between 2 fires," she said softly. "I am," he murmured. A subpoena was delivered to the mansion gates. Serena had filed for a restraining order, a financial claim, a public apology, and, shockingly, partial ownership of the mansion. Maria nearly dropped the envelope when she read it. "She thinks she can claim your house?" Michael exhaled through his teeth. Serena doesn't want ownership, she wants leverage. And she was about to get it. Because within an hour, paparazzi vans lined the street outside the estate. Camera flashes exploded through the gates like lightning. Reporters shouted questions about abuse, betrayal, criminal accusations. The scandal had gone from a spark to a wildfire. And inside the mansion, the atmosphere shifted. The staff whispered nervously. Aiden woke up from naps crying. Lily wouldn't leave Maria's side. Security doubled patrols. Curtains were closed. Michael barely slept. Every hour, the story grew into something uglier. On the fourth night after Serena's meltdown, Maria spotted it before anyone else. She was taking out the recycling when she noticed movement near the hedges, a shadow, a figure, someone ducking low just beyond the gate lights. She froze. Then slowly, she stepped closer. A man, holding a camera with a massive lens. A paparazzi. No, she recognized him, Serena's driver. And beside him was another figure in a hood. Serena. Maria's blood went cold. Serena wasn't just harassing the gates anymore. She was sneaking onto the property, watching the children, stalking the house. Maria could feel her pulse in her ears. She walked backwards into the house without turning around. Once inside, she locked the door and went straight to Michael. "There's someone outside the hedge," she whispered. "Two people. She's here." Michael didn't waste a second. He hit the alarm. Security swarmed the grounds. But by the time they reached the hedge, the shadows were gone. Vanished. The only thing left behind? A teddy bear, with a tiny hidden camera inside. Maria gasped. Michael's eyes filled with horror. He said, "She's spying. She's spying on the kids." "And she didn't leave it there today," Maria said. "That bear wasn't wet. It rained yesterday." Meaning, she had already entered the property more than once. Maria's voice trembled. "Michael, she knows the children's schedules, their room locations, their routines." He swallowed hard. "Serena has crossed the line from vindictive to dangerous," Maria finished. Just when things seemed hopeless, a development hit them like a bolt of lightning. Michael's attorney called. "Michael, you need to come to my office immediately." "Why? What happened?" "It's about Serena's video. Something new surfaced." Maria leaned closer, listening. "What surfaced?" she asked. The attorney hesitated, then said two words that changed everything. "A witness." "Someone who saw her do something?" "No," the attorney replied. "Someone who saw her lie." The room froze. Aiden peeked behind Maria. Lily stopped coloring. Michael's breath caught. "Who?" he whispered. There was a pause. A long, heavy, loaded pause. Then, "Her ex-fiancé." Maria's eyes widened. Michael straightened.
The attorney continued. "He says Serena did the same thing to him, the same accusations, the same tactics, the same manipulations. And he has proof." Maria's hand flew to her mouth. Michael felt something he hadn't felt in days. Relief, hope, a way out. But also something darker. "This isn't just a toxic woman," he whispered. Maria nodded slowly. "This is a pattern. And we're going to expose it." Michael Harrington stood in the dim corridor outside the guest lounge, the door shut behind him, Serena's shrill voice muffled but still slicing at the air like a blade. His heartbeat was a loud, angry drum in his ears. Maria sat beside him on the hallway bench, rubbing her wrists where the security guards, Serena's hired muscle, had grabbed her moments earlier. He didn't speak. He couldn't. Too many things were happening at once in his mind. Guilt, fury, disbelief, shame, and something worse. A realization that made him feel nauseous. His kids had endured this, right under his roof, because he trusted the wrong woman. Maria looked up. "Sir, you okay?" Her voice was gentle, steady. Too steady for someone who had just nearly been thrown out of the estate. Michael swallowed. "I didn't know," he whispered. "Maria, I swear to you, I didn't know." She nodded once. No blame, no accusation, just empathy. That, somehow, made the shame burn hotter. Inside the room, Serena's voice suddenly rose, sharp enough to break through the door. "I want that woman fired now. She's poisoning the children against me. Michael will believe me over some low-class maid." Michael flinched. Maria looked down, and something in his chest twisted so violently he felt breathless. For weeks, months, he'd missed the signs. His kids' sudden silence, their hesitation to run up and hug him, their fear whenever Serena walked into a room. He chalked it up to stress, change, nanny issues, anything but this. "This is my fault," he murmured. Maria turned, eyes soft but firm. "No, Serena fooled everyone. She knows what she's doing. People like her, they're dangerous because they look perfect." He stared at her. "And you? You protected them. You stood between her and my kids even when you knew the risk." She gave a tiny, humorless smile. "I couldn't live with myself if I didn't." He shifted closer, emotions brimming in ways he wasn't prepared for. "You saved my children," he whispered. Before she could respond, the door swung open. Serena emerged, hair immaculate, lipstick flawless, temper sizzling beneath her glossed smile. "There you are, baby," she sang, slipping immediately into her sugary persona. "Why didn't you come in? I've been trying to fix this mess for you." Michael rose slowly, his posture rigid. Maria stood as well, instinctively stepping back. Serena's gaze snapped toward the maid, eyes filled with hatred. "You're still here? Didn't I tell you to get—" "Serena." Michael's voice was low, controlled, dangerous. She stopped talking. Her smile faltered. "This ends today," he said quietly. What does that mean?" Before he could answer, a small voice echoed from the other end of the corridor. "Daddy?" Aiden. He stood there, holding Lily's hand, both children peeking around the corner. Their eyes were red, their faces anxious, like they expected to be yelled at, like they expected consequences for simply existing. Serena stiffened. "Why are they out of their room?" she hissed. Michael felt his jaw clench. "Because I told them to come." He motioned them forward. They ran, not to Serena, but to Maria. Lily wrapped her little arms around the maid's waist, and Aiden grabbed her hand like it was the only anchor in the world that kept him steady. Maria touched their heads gently, reassuring them with a, "It's okay, I'm right here." Serena's face twisted. "Get away from them," she snapped. Michael stepped between her and the children so fast she stumbled back. "Don't you raise your voice at them again." Serena stared at him like he had slapped her. "They are my future stepchildren, and she jabbed a finger at Maria, has been manipulating them, filling their heads with lies. You know how kids are. They exaggerate. Serena." He said her name like a gavel. Everything went silent. Michael lowered himself to one knee in front of Aiden and Lily. He placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "Tell me the truth," he said softly. "I'm here. I'm listening. And I won't let anything bad happen to you. I promise." Aiden looked at Lily, then at Maria, who gave a small nod. The boy swallowed hard. She locked Lily in the pantry," he whispered. Serena's face drained. Michael froze. Aiden continued, voice trembling. "She said Lily ruined her dress, but she didn't. I saw. Serena spilled the juice herself, and then she pushed Lily, and she made me lie and say I did it." Lily nodded, tears spilling. And she told us, if we ever told you, the boy's voice cracked. She said you wouldn't believe us, that you'd send us away. Michael felt something break inside him. Something primal, protective, furious. He slowly rose to his feet. Serena took a step back, her confidence cracking like thin glass. Michael, baby, they're children. You know how dramatic. Stop talking. 2 words. Soft. Deadly. Serena froze. I saw you, he said quietly. I saw you everything. I've been in this house for days, watching, listening. I hired myself as a handyman because I wanted to know the truth. And now, here it is. Serena's mouth fell open. You... What? Why? You think I'd hurt your... He stepped closer, voice icy calm. I heard you call my son a useless brat. Another step. I watched you shove Lily. Another step. I watched Maria step in every time you tried something worse. Her breath shook. She's turned them against me. No, you did that.
Maria's eyes lowered, unsure whether she was supposed to be here for this. Michael gently touched her arm, reassurance, gratitude, apology, all woven into a single gesture. Serena saw it. Her expression snapped into something feral. "Oh, I see," she snarled. "This is what this is about? You're defending her because she hates me? Or is it something else? Did you sleep with the maid, Michael? Is that it?" Maria flinched like she'd been struck. Michael's voice dropped to steel. "Don't you dare drag her into your lies." Serena scoffed. "She's a nobody, a servant. She's using your kids to get close." "No," he said in a whisper. "She's the only one who actually cared." Silence. Then Serena lost it. "You would throw away everything for a woman who scrubs your floors? For 2 spoiled, ungrateful brats who don't even appreciate what I'm trying to do?" Michael stared at her with a terrifying stillness. "You're done here." Serena's mouth fell open. You can't treat me like this. I said," he repeated, "you're done." He gestured to the guards down the hall. "Escort Miss Vale off my property, permanently." The guards didn't hesitate. Serena shrieked, tried to pull away, screamed threats, accusations, promises he'd regret, but it didn't matter. Her voice faded as she was dragged out of the corridor, leaving only silence. Aiden squeezed Maria's hand. Lily buried her face in Maria's apron, and Michael exhaled for the first time in months. Slowly, carefully, he turned to Maria. "You saved them. I don't know how to thank you." Maria shook her head. "You don't need to thank me, sir. They're good children. They deserved someone in their corner." Michael felt something shift in him, something deep, something dangerous, something hopeful. "Maria, I think you've been in their corner far longer than I have." She looked up, and for a moment something unspoken passed between them, something that felt like the real beginning of everything, the turning point, where the truth finally had space to breathe, where the future began to rearrange itself, and where, for the first time in a long time, Michael Harrington felt like a father again.
The Harrington mansion had never felt quiet. It was a house built for echoes, marble floors, vaulted ceilings, long hallways that carried footsteps like whispers. But now, the silence was different. It felt deliberate, charged, like the walls were holding their breath. Michael stood in the center of the grand foyer, staring at the massive front doors that had just slammed shut behind Serena Vale. Her shouts still faintly echoed from outside as the guards escorted her off the property. But the moment the engines of her car screeched down the driveway, everything went still.
His children clung to Maria's hands, both exhausted, both shaking from everything that had just erupted. Maria herself looked rattled, her face soft with worry, her breath trembling, her apron twisted in her grip. Michael slowly turned toward them. "Come here," he said gently. Aiden hesitated only a moment before running into his father's arms, Lily right behind him. Michael knelt, wrapping both children tightly, feeling their tiny shoulders finally relax. It was the first time in weeks, maybe months, that they weren't flinching. The first time they clung to him without hesitation. The first time he felt like they believed he was truly there. "I'm so sorry," he whispered into their hair. "I should have protected you sooner." Aiden's voice cracked. "It's not your fault, Daddy!" But it was, and Michael knew it. When he finally stood, his eyes drifted to Maria. She immediately looked away, almost as if she didn't think she was allowed to be part of this moment, as if she were waiting for someone to tell her she had overstepped, that she didn't belong in this family scene. But she did. More than anyone else had. "Maria," Michael said softly. Her gaze lifted, uncertain, guarded. "You don't have to stay in the shadows anymore." Her lips parted. "Sir, Maria," he repeated, stepping closer, voice steady. "You saved them. Don't ever think your place here is anything less than essential." She swallowed, clearly emotional but trying to hold herself together. "Thank you," she whispered. Before anything more could be said, the estate manager rushed in through the side hallway, tablet in hand, eyes wide with urgency. "Mr. Harrington, sir, there's an issue you need to see immediately." Michael instinctively shifted the children behind him. "What issue?" The manager hesitated. "It's Serena." Maria stiffened. Michael's jaw tensed. "What about her?" "She's not leaving quietly. She's live streaming." Maria sucked in a sharp breath. Of course she was. The manager continued. "She has over 60,000 viewers and rising. She's accusing you of abuse, manipulation, cheating, exploiting the staff, and, sir, she's saying the children are brainwashed by the maid." Michael's blood ran hot and cold at the same time. He turned to Maria, who looked horrified. "That's not true," she whispered, heart pounding. "I know," he said. "Everyone will know." Aiden tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, what does she want?" Michael crouched again, steadying his son's trembling chin with gentle fingers. "She wants attention. She wants control. But she doesn't get either anymore." He stood and faced the manager. "Prepare the media room." The manager blinked. "Sir, the media?" Michael didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Serena brought this to the public. Fine. We'll finish it in public." The live broadcast. 20 minutes later, the Harrington media room filled with the soft hum of equipment. Cameras blinked awake, microphones tested, screens flickered. The mansion staff gathered in quiet clusters, unsure what was coming but knowing it was monumental. Michael stood in the center of the room, no suit jacket, sleeves rolled, still in the clothes he'd worn while disguised as a handyman. It made him look raw, human, honest, exactly what he needed to be. Beside him, Maria stood off to the side, unsure if she should even be in the shot. He turned to her. "Come closer." She froze. "Sir, Maria," he said softly, "I want you beside me. You're part of the truth." She stepped forward, eyes wide, cheeks flushing. The children were in a nearby lounge with a trusted nanny. They didn't need to be part of this battle. A red light blinked. They were live. Michael took a breath. Not the breath of a billionaire protecting his reputation, but the breath of a father ready to fight for his children. Good evening. My name is Michael Harrington, and I'm speaking to you because someone I once trusted, Serena Vale, is spreading dangerous lies. Across the world, tens of thousands of viewers listened. Serena is claiming that I mistreated her, my household staff, and even my children. She says my kids are being manipulated, that she's the victim. He paused. She is not. He looked directly into the lens. The truth is this.
Serena has been emotionally abusing my children for months, threatening them, isolating them, and today I caught her in the act." Gasps erupted in the scrolling comments. Michael continued, voice steady. "I had reason to suspect something was wrong in my home, so I disguised myself as a handyman and worked in my own house, unnoticed, because that's how deeply she fooled me." Another wave of stunned comments flooded the feed. And while Serena hid behind charm, lies, and makeup, he looked at Maria. "This woman protected my children." Maria's breath hitched, but she didn't look away. She shielded them, comforted them, saved them, while Serena threatened them and tried to turn them against me. He faced the camera again. "So no, you will not hear silence from me today. You will not hear lies. You will hear the truth." Then he delivered the final blow. "I am pressing charges against Serena Vale for child endangerment, coercion, and emotional abuse, and my children will never see her again." The live stream exploded. Millions of viewers now, comments flying faster than the screen could scroll. Maria stood trembling, but when Michael reached over and gently took her hand, she didn't pull away. The connection, the unspoken respect, the unbreakable bond born in crisis was undeniable. "Thank you," he whispered to her. But she shook her head. "No, thank you for believing them." The aftermath. The broadcast ended, but the ripple didn't. Within hours, every major news outlet ran the story. Serena's reputation collapsed like wet cardboard. Thousands of parents flooded social media, praising Michael for investigating his own home. Millions supported Maria, calling her brave, heroic, selfless. A legal team contacted Michael before he contacted them, offering assistance in ensuring full custody protection. But the biggest shift wasn't online. It happened in the Harrington home. That night, after the kids were tucked in, Michael found Maria standing alone on the back terrace, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the garden she'd swept hundreds of times. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I'm just glad the kids are safe." "You did that," he said. She looked down. "I was just doing what any decent person would." "No," he whispered. "You did what I didn't, what Serena wouldn't, what most people couldn't." She met his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't look away. "You don't owe me anything," she said quietly. "I didn't do it for reward. I know." He stepped closer. "And that's exactly why I owe you everything." Her breath trembled. He continued, voice lower, honest in a way he rarely allowed himself to be. "I want you to stay, not as staff, as someone who cares about this family." Maria blinked, overwhelmed, unsure what to say. But then, softly, shakily, she nodded. "I'd like that," she whispered. And as the mansion lights glowed warm behind them and the garden rustled softly in the night breeze, Michael Harrington finally felt like his home had been rebuilt. Not with marble, not with wealth, not with perfection, but with truth, with courage, with love, and with the woman who protected his children long before he ever saw the danger. The final reckoning wasn't just Serena's downfall. It was the rebirth of a family, and the beginning of something far stronger than anything money could buy.